So one thing I've been thinking about lately and observing is this tendency we have as humans to become blinded or really invested and hypnotized in an idea. And oftentimes this idea is at the contradiction and the detriment of the actual reality or the actual point of the thing. So what we're going to do in this video is take a look at a few different areas and contexts where this plays out, understand how and why it happens, and why we can do things to break out of that. So again, we get hypnotized by the idea at the detriment of reality. So let's look at some examples. Number one, really most obvious, would be diet. Being someone that's been in sort of the alternative health field for like 8 or more years now, and have been working with people for quite a while, doing a lot of one-on-one consultations, a lot of one-on-one work, both online and face-to-face. A major thing that comes up a lot is someone gets really intellectually invested in an idea or a specific paradigm and path that really doesn't actually work for their body at all and really doesn't nourish them. But what happens is they become so invested and so hypnotized and obsessed with the idea or the symbol or the self-image of the thing, meaning I am this, I am that, this food is the best, this food is bad, I can only eat this, I can't eat any of that. And basically what happens is the actual point of the diet, which is nourishment, enrichment, inspiration, upliftment, is really not there. But because they're so invested in the idea, they can't see that and they can't break through it. And they might try to break through it, but they just meet all this resistance of, well, I read this, I read that, and all this programming, and everyone says this and that. And in reality, it's like, it's not really the point. Because again, the point of the diet is ease, fun, enrichment, pleasure, all of those things. It's the point of food, it's the point of diet. But we become so invested in the idea that we just ignore the actual point. We ignore the reality of the situation. Second would be, we could say, maybe exercise as another example, where someone reads, oh, this is really good for me, or this is the best, or I have to do this, I have to burn off these calories, I have to do this so I can lose weight, and blah, blah, blah. But what happens is they might be really invested in this activity, but it might actually be really terrible for their body. It might be wrecking their joints. It might be really stressing them out. It might be really sacrificing their health for some short-term illusion of fitness. If you don't believe me, go to the gym, go to a park, observe people doing their exercise and see how much ease they're embodying, see how much peace they have, see how much fun and pleasure they're really having in that moment. Usually it's not very much. Because again, they're obsessed with this idea of something, but they're just out of touch and ignoring the reality. Another example could be, let's say, a relationship. It's a very common thing people get really invested into, like law of attraction or reality creation sort of communities. And they think, well, I need to dream my ideal partner, I need to dream my ideal relationship. And yes, there's some value in that, but oftentimes that can be very constricting, because we spend all of this time and energy and write all of this stuff and get very narrow and focused, and sometimes we can just miss all of the other opportunities and all the other things that might be trying to reach us, or other things that might be trying to come into our experience. Or we find ourselves in the relationship that we think we want based on our ideas. In reality, it doesn't really work for us. It doesn't really nourish us. There's no real connection. There's no real passion and inspiration, which is really the point of the relationship. But people get in it and they say, oh, well, this is the idea that I wanted, so I should be happy, so I'm going to stay here. When in reality, they're not happy. And then you ask people, how do you feel about this relationship, or tell me about your relationship. People launch into this whole foray of, well, we've been together this long, this is how we met, this is what we do, and blah, blah, blah. All these sort of stories and adjectives and justifications and reasonings, which have nothing to do with the point of the relationship, which is nourishment, love, connection, fun, pleasure, joy. All of those things are actually the point of the relationship, but those are usually not what people describe or communicate or relate when you ask them about their relationships. Same thing can go with jobs or religion or spiritual practices. So then why does this happen? Why is this so common? And I wanted to challenge you just to go talk to friends, go talk to people about their relationships, about their jobs, or about different activities, and just listen to the stories and see if it's really syncing or lining up. So why does this happen? Well, number one, people are blinded by symbols. People mistake symbols and thought in words for the actual thing. Number two, this causes us to be hypnotized by thought. So we walk around in our heads so much that we just ignore feeling, we ignore instinct, we ignore intuition, we ignore the actual tangible, perceptual, visceral world that we're embedded within. Which again is the third reason, which is disregarding feeling by worshiping thought. This is really one of the main reasons that people are so uptight and so tense all the time. It's because they're just so always caught up in the story or the symbolic representation of things, when in reality it is literally a symbolic representation. Well, symbolic representation of what? Well, obviously something that needs to be symbolized or represented, so something that's not of that sort of frame or that sort of level of understanding. Which again goes back to our point of the idea of something versus the reality of something, and how we can be hypnotized and obsessed and then sort of controlled and imprisoned by that idea, and at the detriment and contradiction of the actual reality. So hopefully now I've beat that idea into the ground. You understand it from all these different angles. Most importantly, can see it, recognize it, and then start to break through it and have more freedom and empowerment. So if you have any questions or comments, post them below, and I'll talk to you soon.